Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. He's the statistician to the stars. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. You are tuned in to the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely like having those conversations after the show. So, Pad, where does everybody go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing on over to the website. Check out all the social media links. Check out all the blogs. Check out the TeePublic store. Check out the classified section, which has friends of the show, such as 3FM Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, and many more. The directory. Pat, how many providers are we on?
We are on 95,250.
Statistician stars for a reason, folks. And who's your source there?
Trust me, bro.
Exactly. See, he was coughing. I had to repause my statement there because you don't want to interrupt him when he's giving all those stats away.
This is true.
This is very true. Also, the music section, which has such great bands as Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, Shout Out the Robots, Floodlands, and many more. Basically, if it's anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. And always remember on social media, use the hashtag ODPHpod.
Should, real quick, to all of our listeners in the Southern California area and Los Angeles, hopefully you're staying safe.
Yes.
And let us know.
Yeah, please be safe and careful out there right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely. If you haven't seen the images online, look them up. It is like something out of a Michael Bay movie.
It's insane.
It's nuts. If you are looking to help, and I'll put this information in the show notes, you can support the American Red Cross, which is probably your best way of getting help to those folks right now. You can call 1-800-733-2767, or you can text Red Cross, all capitals, all one word, to 90999. And again, those will be in the description of the show notes.
Absolutely. That's thank you for putting that in there, Pat. So if you can support, definitely share it wherever, and obviously our thoughts and positive energy out to everybody out there right now.
Yeah.
Because just watching the news articles on that is it's mind-blowing.
Crazy.
So we'll try refocusing now and bring you some entertainment discussion, because I know one show has been really taken over on social media and in pop culture, and one that we've been keeping our eyes on for quite some time. And now we're at the penultimate episode,
Which jumped up on me. I thought we had at least another two.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Like, I thought this felt like maybe this wasn't going to be the second to last episode.
Also going out on a limb, because nothing has been announced yet, at least as of this recording. We know our show's history. That could entirely change by the time this episode is published.
Mm-hmm.
Would not be surprised if we get a second season.
Yeah, this one has definitely won over more fans than The Acolyte.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would not doubt that we might see season 2 up here of Disney and Star Wars' latest live-action show, which is, Pad, what?
Skeleton Crew.
Yes, the Jude Law-led show involving 4 runaways, stowaways, if you want to call them, who wind up going on an adventure and run into a mysterious imposing figure.
Figures.
Yes,
Yeah.
as they go on their travels to try finding their way back home, has really won over the audience. We were seeing more positive reviews come in for this than not.
Yeah, easiest description and comparison we can make for this show is Goonies in space.
Yeah. So if you've ever seen that movie, you absolutely know what that is. Ravi Cabot-Conyers plays Wim. Ryan Kiera Armstrong plays Fern. Kiera Kratner plays KB. Robert Timothy Smith is the voice of Neil, who is the alien elephant character on the show.
Yep.
And as we mentioned, Jude Law is playing Jode Nawood, who is a mysterious, shady character that has the Force, but what is he using it for?
We don't know. And as we currently record on Rotten Tomatoes, the show has a 91% on the tomato meter, so that's the critics score. And for the audiences, it's got a 79%.
Yes. So, like we said, the audience has definitely been involved to it. And definitely have to shout out Nick Frost, who's the voice of SM33.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Who's been doing great work on the show. So
Love SM33.
Now we're at the penultimate episode, like we alluded to, and there's a lot of action that is going on with this. So if you are new to the show, what we'd like to do is give you a spoiler-free statement about what we're going to be discussing. And we are going to be talking episode 7, entitled we're going to be in so much trouble. So we do give the spoiler-free statement. So if you haven't seen the episode for whatever reason, don't want to have it ruined for you, boom, you get our quick opinions of it. Then we give you a countdown. At said countdown, you have to make a choice. Do you stay or do you go? If you stay, you hear all the spoiler talk, all the theories, everything that we just unleash onto you. If you have to go, pause the episode, watch it, and then come back and then hear what we have to say, and definitely have those conversations with us after the show, because we have a lot to say about what is going on here. So that said, Pad, you are the Star Wars aficionado of the ODPH. What is your spoiler-free statement on we're going to be in so much trouble?
It's okay. It wasn't the best episode of the season. It wasn't necessarily the worst, but it felt like there should have been more. And maybe this is just one of those things that I'll understand it better when we get the final episode, which is dropping next week. Which is going to be directed by the series creator, showrunner John Watts. Directed by it. Sorry. But this one, it felt okay. It felt like there's just more to it, that it left me wanting more, and I was expecting more just because, and maybe this is the Game of Thrones thing that I'm used to with a lot of shows these days. The penultimate episode is always crazy. It's always nuts. There's always something, bombastic happening. And I didn't necessarily really get it. I got a lot of questions, but that's to be expected. But overall, it was okay.
I have to agree. I think this episode was one of the better ones that we've had.
Sure.
And I think that they were moving the plot along, and they had a good pacing to this.
Oh, yeah.
The only drawback, though, and I have to agree with you, I think there was something missing. I can't put my finger on it, but there was something missing from this episode. And where we leave things off is vintage Star Wars. And with one episode left, they really have to nail the landing. They are poised to do it, but like we say, this is not exactly a home run. This one might be up for instant replay.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people online have been very happy with this episode, and that's awesome.
This episode just feels like, and maybe this is part of the reason I didn't enjoy it so much, is I got this feeling very early. This isn't a spoiler. I got this feeling very early in the episode that I needed to rewatch 6.
Yeah.
Before I saw this one. And that's not necessarily to say, I forgot some of the stuff that happened, or I was, wasn't understanding, or this or that. It just felt like, because I've had a lot going on in my life in the last week. I was sick and knocking on heaven's door, metaphorically speaking, but it just felt like I got that feeling very like I should rewatch episode 6.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
No, I'm right there with you. This was one that it jumped in, and it was going off the basis of they really felt they won you over with Zero Friends again, episode 6. And with episode 6, I don't feel it did that.
Yeah.
So where we got here, like I say, there's something missing with this episode.
Right.
But is worthy of the watch nevertheless.
Right.
So that being said, let's get into spoiler talk. So Pat, in 3, 2, 1, let's really talk about it.
Like I said, the episode was good. I enjoyed it for what it was. There were some moments in there that I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of crazy where we're going with this. It definitely feels like it's setting up for season 2. But then I got to the end of it and I'm like, that's it? Like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop and never really got it.
The ending was very cliche.
Yeah.
And I think with this show, we've been waiting for something more, a larger wow effect. And I don't think we've had that. And I think we had glimpses here.
Right.
But knowing the benchmark that has been set by The Mandalorian, by Ahsoka, you can pull this off in Star Wars lore and it works. This is a brand new property.
Yep.
We don't know much about it.
Yep.
And yet, I think they played it too safe.
Right.
That it just felt like, they could have done something more here that I've been like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because the ending is very telegraphed to a degree.
Sure.
But we'll get into it as we go, because this whole time we've been dealing on the search for At-Atin.
Right.
And this has now resulted in a lot of interesting invested parties, I guess we should say.
Piracy.
Piracy, if you will, because there's a lot of space pirates going around.
Yep.
Involving the kids who made this dramatic escape from Lenapu last episode. And now they're flying with their ship, the Onyx Cider.
Yep.
And that's drawing a lot of attention to it, so it does wind up having them captured.
Well, and especially too, At-Aten, as we know from prior episodes, is this mystical planet that's part of, treasure lore.
Yeah.
Almost like an El Dorado kind of thing, in real life terms, where it's spoken of, it's known by a lot of folks, but it's kind of generally, I think, to the majority of the populace, like, okay, it's a story, but it's not real. But there is, of course, that certain faction or certain percentage that goes, nah, this is a real thing. Like, we got to find this. And, these kids show up and nobody really knows anything about it. Nobody really bats an eyelash at it because, hey, it's Star Wars. Parenting in Star Wars is not
the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst. Don't sugarcoat it.
Well, it's better than Kevin McAllister's mother in Home Alone.
Okay, that's a whole separate degree right there. But
right.
Yeah.
But so parenting in Star Wars, not great. But the instant they mention At-Aten, the entire bar, their cantina, whatever you want to call it, there, and drops their collective drink and goes, "Excuse me, you said what now?"
Yeah.
And it's basically like you said, free food or free money, and everyone got real interested.
Oh yeah.
So now the red alarm is going off. The flag has been raised, like, hey, this is real important, and everyone is after them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, At-Aten is much like Tahiti. It's a magical place.
This is true.
So once everybody's been captured, this is where things kind of get really, I will say, confusing.
Convoluted?
Yeah, a little bit. Because we see that Jode is now in a position where he can make a statement involving this. And when Brutus, who has been the pirate overlord, shall we say, winds up getting captured by Jode, Jode is making a statement in front of the rest of the space pirates that are Brutus's crew.
Yep.
And more or less says, like, you're now part of my team.
Yep.
I'm the captain now, so to speak.
Yep.
And what does he do, Pat?
He kills Brutus.
Yeah. So while the children have him distracted and he gets caught,
Yep.
So sure enough, Joe does this right in front of everybody. Which I will say...
Piracy 101, sure.
Yeah, which I will say for this show, too. We talk about how it's very all ages, very, I don't want to say family-friendly to a degree.
Yeah.
This started taking a darker turn.
This felt, and I haven't seen the whole show. I tried watching a couple episodes of Black Sails.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was on Stars because they added it to Netflix a couple months ago. Had a definite Black Sails feel to things.
Yeah.
With that portion.
Yeah, it definitely did. So now Jode is the captain and literally tells the pirates, well, since the kids are now escaping here, you now have to go search them out, and also we have to remain low until we go raid everything here on At-Aten.
Yep.
Because, like I say, once everybody is there, they've been basically trailing the kids the entire time.
Yep.
So it does make things a little bit more messy in that circumstance.
Yep.
But the kids wind up getting out of this mess for a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
And albeit, though, the way they do it, I'm not exactly... I don't know. There's something about it that's just too corny.
Okay.
Because once Jode confronts them, and they're arguing about the ship and who is the captain of the ship.
Right, because there's that whole exchange, well, you can only be captain of one ship.
Right. So now there's this weird thing about who's the real captain of the Onyx Cinder. So when this is going down, you do see one of the kids, Fern, do something like, yeah, well, I'm the boss infinity times 10. Now, granted, it works. It works because she is a kid.
Yeah, it's a kid.
It works in that favor.
I think we've all said something to that degree when we were kids, and if you're saying you didn't, you're lying.
Exactly. But the fact that it worked in this scenario with adults, I was like, really?
I looked at it more as, okay, was it corny? Yes, I will agree with you. It was corny. I kind of took it as more, they just didn't have the time or energy or mental capacity that they wanted to go back and forth with this. Mm-hmm. And they're like, fine, there's bigger pieces at play here. We'll let you have this little, bag of candy. The big Willy Wonka chocolate factory is down the road.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I understand why. But it was weird that the adults were rolling with this too.
Yeah.
Because now you see that with the new captain in place, with Fern, we see SM-33 now turn on Jode.
Yep, because they found some sort of pirate code to turn him back towards them.
Yeah.
Which, that was the one thing I didn't necessarily understand. And from the aspect of like, okay, you just magically found this whole thing now?
Yeah. Like, that's the point, too. I mean,
It felt almost a little too convenient.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, that's where I think something was missing here.
Because, like, when you had the prior episode where it was like, oh, they had the whole... He held the one girl at knife's point and was like, relinquish the captaincy, and she did, and that therein, because of pirate code, switched SM-33's allegiance to Jode. I'm like, okay. On a tangible level, I'm not a pirate. I've never spoken to a pirate from, the Age of Pirates here in the actual history. But from what I've seen in movies and read in some books, okay, that makes sense. Now there's just a magical code that like flipped a switch.
Yeah. Like it was too cliche.
It was too convenient.
Yeah, it's too Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest about it. It was way too Disney.
Yeah.
So as the kids escape now, because SM-33 is helping them, Jode is now aboard their ship too, and decides to do something which really made this episode go into a different direction.
Yeah.
What does he do, Pat?
Decapitated SM-33.
Yep, right in front of the kids.
Oy. I was not happy about this.
No, definitely.
I love SM-33.
Yeah, I was going to say this definitely got social media talking.
Hi, Funko. If you haven't already planned or announced a Funko Pop for him, I would like one.
Yeah. And basically, Jode is now threatening the children and saying, nobody moves, nobody gets hurt, just go along with the plan.
Uh-huh.
And the plan is to pose as a member of the emissary from the Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he does this and says, well, I can get in the vaults if you do this.
Yeah.
So basically, like I say, nobody moves, nobody gets hurt.
Shows up on the planet, claims he's the emissary of the Republic. They roll out the red carpet, the whole song and dance. He wants to skip steps. They can't do it.
Yeah. So eventually, this leads him into the vaults of At-Aten.
This set was cool.
I will say the production design.
That was nice.
Production design was on point. And you do see this very regal and rich, oasis now come in, and we do see Jode is now walking around and comes to where basically he gets these gold credits and he's letting them rain down on him.
Right.
And you see just the maniacal smile that is forming on him that now he's achieved this goal that he's wanted to do this entire time. Meanwhile, all the parents who have been trying to track down these kids come to the vault because they know a ship has landed there and they know the kids are involved.
Yep.
They now have this joyous reunion. The parents are hugging. It's like, okay, well, we finally got back home. And then Jode confronts them all.
Yep.
And pops that lightsaber again.
Uh-huh. Blue blade.
Yeah. And then that's where the episode leaves everybody.
Yeah.
So I guess it's...
Interesting points.
Yeah, very interesting points. Let's talk about them.
I mean, there were some interesting points. You had the whole the set was cool. Building up to that wasn't bad. The whole song and dance with like, oh, I'm the emissary of the Republic felt a little drawn out.
Yeah,
at least for me.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Killing some of the adult tones the episode took. I was digging. I'm like, oh, okay, we're going some places. This isn't your standard Pirates of the Caribbean on TV.
Yeah, no, they definitely wanted to shake things up, and they did, and I like that aspect of it. I think they needed to because it almost got to the same point of we're making another Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reference. It was almost like, hey, did you know we fought the Avengers? Hey, you know about the incident in New York?
The incident.
Like literally. It got to that point with this series because it just seems like it's been wash, rinse, repeat for a good 3-4 episodes.
Yeah.
3, maybe 4. I'll push 4.
Sure.
So the fact that they went into a different direction for this, I thought was smart. And I thought Jude Law really brought out the most of this performance. But it was also very puzzling, though, in one aspect, too. When the kids made the escape, Jode was not on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we didn't spend a lot of time even discussing this. But he was not on the ship. He's watching it fly away. So how did he get on the ship?
Yeah.
I know you have a theory.
Well, the easy explanation is, well, he does have force powers. He could have used some sort of like force speed or whatever you want to call it, and accelerated, at Mach speed, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think it could be is, and some of you may cringe, but hey, stick with me. What I think it could be is the entire likelihood that the person who is on the ship as Jode isn't Jode, and that it is a changeling, much in the same way that we've seen him a couple times in Star Wars Clone Wars, but the first appearance was Zam Wesell, the bounty hunter that tried to kill Padme in Attack of the Clones. So it could be that.
Could be that. I mean, that would make some sense. I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that if that's the case, then that would be an interesting twist.
Yeah.
Because then where does Joe go from here? That's a whole different ball game too, which, I mean, if they want to go for a season 2, I think they need to explain.
I mean, this thing, and I was pulling up a quote here, James Gunn recently said, because somebody asked him online why Creature Commandos is releasing weekly and didn't drop all at once. And he said, quote, because it affords a quality show an opportunity to be discussed and grow from week to week. Creature Commandos has gotten more popular from episode to episode because of the positive discussion around it and has cultivated an enthusiastic audience. If we had dropped all of the episodes at once, who knows what would have happened? I will likely always be in the 1 a week camp for our shows. For people who want to binge all at once, they can wait until the end of the season, close quote. So the reason I bring this up is Skeleton Crew has been good. I've enjoyed it. I'm not sitting here at the end of each episode going, well, crap, that's 30 to 45 minutes of my life I wish I had back. But I will say, this feels like a show that maybe for the first time in the Disney Star Wars era, because I sure as shit wish they dropped all of Clone Wars at once, except for that one season of Netflix. But the other, would be 6 seasons of Clone Wars, so 1 through 5, and 1 through 5 and season 7. I wish they dropped all at once, but season 6 they dropped all at once. But for the Disney era Star Wars stuff, I've been okay with them doing week to week because there's been enough there that I'm like, okay, this is good. We're building this. This is one that I feel works better if they dropped it all at once.
See, I could see that point. I can. I just think the problem is they've had too much filler in the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's the one issue I would have. If they cut out 3 episodes, yeah, I could do that.
Sure.
But not for 8.
Sure.
Because I just don't think that this carried through in that aspect, because the only points that you really got hooked on is the emergence of Jode, where he goes,
right,
what he's involved with the kids.
Right.
And then now this. And where things end. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think what they were really trying to do is hope they caught lightning in a bottle.
Right.
And the fan base was going to be like, whoa, blown away. And I mean, the series is good, but in my opinion, it's not great.
Yeah. And
I think that plays a little bit of a factor in here.
Sure.
Unless we really give a finale to remember.
Oh, yeah.
Like if this is one that we're going to be talking about for months.
Right. Which could happen.
I mean, it could happen completely.
You never know.
I mean, you never know what they're planning to do for this, but I think they need to do something major, because I think if this just goes quietly into the night, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, the reception, like we said, the reception's been good. The Rotten Tomatoes score is very good.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
That's a good sign. I haven't looked and seen what it is on IMDb for what it's worth, but IMDb scores you got to take with a grain of salt, just because you don't have to have watched it to review it. So you always got to take that with a grain of salt. Let's pull up what it is right now. It is currently sitting at, with 13,000 votes, 7.2 out of 10.
Okay.
And its popularity right now is number 13 for television shows.
Which is great. I mean, especially coming off the heels of The Acolyte, which I don't like comparing to, but we have to in this regard.
It's the last thing that came out for television Star Wars.
Yeah, so the fact that they've spun some good karma their way, and with this show, it's definitely grown on the pop culture audience.
Yeah.
That all bets are off going into this finale, because I really think they can't play it safe. I think they need to do a wow factor moment. What it's going to be, I don't know. My whole idea this entire time was the kids were going to be the ones to find Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen now. But
I mean, it's possible, because I did look up. This show does take place 9 years after Return of the Jedi, which is in the same time period The Mandalorian is in.
Yeah.
So without having the Star Wars timeline in front of me, presumably this is going on at least at the same time, maybe a little bit before, maybe a little after the stuff in Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka. So I guess the Filoni verse, if you will, the Filoni storyline, if you will. So it's going on at the same time, presumably. Yes. So is it possible they could end up going for Ahsoka, or Ahsoka could tie it? Yeah, maybe. Is it possible these kids are going to end up on Mandalorian and Grogu? Probably not, but we'll see where it goes.
I mean, there's a lot of open windows they can go through.
Yeah.
It just depends on how they want to do, but I think for the setup and where they've gone with this, it hasn't been exactly a home run. There was something missing from this episode.
Yeah.
So now going into the finale, I mean, it's still going to be one that a lot of people are going to be watching and talking about.
Yeah.
And I think just for Star Wars in general, they just really need to give the fans something to really savor.
Yeah.
Anything less is not going to hit the mark.
And we'll see where they go from here. I mean, it feels like they're setting up for a second season, but you never know.
Exactly. That being said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about We're Going to Be in So Much Trouble? Episode 7 of Disney Plus and Star Wars live action show Skeleton Crew. Let's talk about it, shall we? But first, we're going to get a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, be sure to check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we're talking penultimate episodes.
Yeah, we are.
It's crazy to think about, but we are here for the opening project from one James Gunn and DC Studios in the new DC live action universe, and this one taken into the animation side with Creature Commandos. The unique story of the special government team of very supernatural and monster characters are on a mission to take down a royal princess, and we'll just say wacky hijinks ensue.
A lot of them.
Yes, the show has been a very adult-themed project with a great voice acting cast. Idira Varma is playing the bride. Sean Gunn is doing G.I. Robot and Weasel. We know Alan Tudyk, the legend, is doing Dr. Phosphorus and a few other characters. Zoe Chow is doing Nina Mazursky. David Harbour is being Eric Frankenstein, and Frank Grillo is playing Rick Flag Sr., and Viola Davis is back as Amanda Waller.
And let's not also forget Peter Serafinowicz, a.k.a. the fucking voice of Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, was Victor Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the hell?
They have an all-star cast for this.
If you look at like the cast on IMDb, it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. Like I say, it's an all-star lineup, to put it mildly. And especially for being a show that borrows a lot from Suicide Squad, but made it a real supernatural twist. It's really one that has now cemented what James Gunn is trying to do. And it's one that if you're a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, you see a lot of similarities there. Obviously, Suicide Squad, it's very similar in that regard. But for what this means for the opening shot for the DC universe under him and Peter Safran, I think there's a lot of positives to be made.
Absolutely.
And especially where we are going with this penultimate episode entitled Prieto Sketel.
Which, according to Google Translate, is Russian and translates to Buddy Skeleton, or Skeleton Buddy.
And obviously, like the first segment, we are going to give you our spoiler-free statement, give the countdown, and then we deep dive into this episode. So, Pad, let's talk about it.
Good episode. You know, all things considered, I was very interested to learn a bit about Dr. Phosphorus because, hey, not a character I'm super familiar with other than he looks like the villain from Batman Beyond, which I know he's not. But, hey, look up a photo of that dude from season 1, season 2 and tell me I'm wrong. But no, good episode. And, oh, boy, that ending.
Yeah, this one, they really made a mysterious character of Dr. Phosphorus into a likable one. Where
if
he really
we can say that.
I mean, like I say, you can hear the pause in my voice about saying that, but
there's nothing good about the guy.
Well, you find out why, and you can kind of understand to a degree.
It's like trying to make Voldemort a sympathetic character in Harry Potter. Like, no.
Well, I mean,
or let's go this far. For Harry Potter fans, you know, it's like trying to make Umbridge a sympathetic character. No.
Oh, I mean,
you don't do it.
I mean, you can, but in this situation, though, I think it gave Alan Tudyk a lot to really run with this character.
Sure.
because we've been exposed to the majority of the group. I think there's one more that we don't have the intro yet for,
Yeah.
which I feel we're going to find out at the end of season 1 here in the finale, as we're talking about. Because
Probably.
it has been announced, which I did not like that they did announce it ahead of time, that season 2 is on the way.
That doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise me, but I think they telegraphed the ending because it's where's the suspense?
Well, but at the same token, though, you look at the way things are going with DC, and I'm not going to go on too long a tangent here, but you look at like what's going on with the Batman and how that got delayed, and we don't really know too much past that with DC. We know Jason Momoa got confirmed as being Lobo for the Supergirl movie, and he does have a script in head. How do we know? Well, he posted the fucking video. But like, you just look at how things are like, okay, we know Superman is coming. We know Supergirl is coming. We know they've announced things, but we don't know when they're coming. I think I just kind of look at it as a way like, hey, we haven't forgotten the rest of these projects, and we haven't forgotten the universe at large, and like other things are coming. We just got to tell you.
Right, but in this situation, though, before the finale, I did not like because it takes away from where you're going, because now you have to say, okay, well, is there a chance for them to survive and succeed? Well, I don't know, but now they're coming back for season 2. What does that mean?
Right.
And that starts that conversation. But for this penultimate episode, I thought they nailed the points they needed to. It was a very good episode. And obviously, there's a cameo that is breaking the internet right now. That
there is.
We will be deep diving into, rest assured. But we have to do it after the countdown. So that being said, Pat, in 3, 2, 1, let's really talk about it.
Like I said, really good episode. I don't know too much about Dr. Phosphorus, so the fact that I got to learn a little bit about him and what makes him tick, I guess you could say, really enjoyed that. The ending, holy hell, couple of cameos that I didn't expect coming. But overall, great episode.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I thought they really did a great job about fleshing out Dr. Phosphorus, no pun intended. And really, Alan Tudyk voiced an amazing performance in this episode. A lot of cameos that were going on, especially in dealing with one Cape Crusader.
Yeah.
As we'll get into. But this one, obviously, Task Force M for Monsters has been separated on their mission to take out the Princess of Polkastan. And they're now on the run. So this one, they start diving into the backstory of Dr. Phosphorus, who is a nuclear scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And in his search for science and a cure for cancer, he winds up getting funding from a certain mob boss, Pad.
Mm-hmm.
And who is this?
Rupert Thorne.
And how will we know about Rupert?
We know about Rupert Thorne from Batman the Animated Series.
Yep.
Saw that which I don't know if it was like an exact replication of what he looked like in the animated series, but it was damn close.
It was close.
Ooh, saw that and I instantly knew who that was, and I got real excited.
Yeah. So Phosphorus is trying to sell the idea that he can cure cancer using nuclear fusion.
Mm-hmm.
However, in dealing with Rupert Thorne, there's always a secondhand deal going on.
Mm-hmm.
Alex realizes this and tries getting out of the deal. But this does not fly over with Thorne, because anytime you deal with the mob boss of his caliber, leaving a job early is not exactly in the cards.
Yeah.
And they do wind up having one of the more horrific scenes in recent memory.
Uh-huh.
Because you see that Dr. Phosphorus's family is violently killed in front of them. And Phosphorus is framed for the murders, which is a wild scenario to see play out.
Oh, Lord.
To put it mildly. And in doing this, well, Rupert Thorne tries killing the doctor with his own experiment.
Mm-hmm.
However, though, fate intervenes and now turns him into a radioactive being.
Uh-huh.
Which, I mean, Pat, when you're seeing this in full, what's going through your mind?
A little bit of shock, a little bit of holy hell, we're going here. Didn't expect him to go this full tilt.
Yeah. So we do see him now turn into a radioactive skeleton. I know I've been hit up online too, and I will just clarify. No, this is not Geiger from Ghost Machine. They are two separate characters. Both are equally amazing. In fact, Geiger 10 is out in comic shops this week. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So that being said, you see that the Dr. Phosphorus is born.
Yep.
And with nothing left to lose, he winds up going on his revenge tour. Kills Thorne, takes over his empire, and is now a mob boss. and he's now living the high life because now he has powers. He thinks he's untouchable. There's a very funny dance sequence going on where he's wearing a lot of polka dots. Why, Pad?
Reasons.
But in the skylight, after the power goes out of the gala that he is hosting, there is a character that we have seen numerous times. And if you're talking Gotham City, you know that this character is going to show up. And Pat, who do we finally see?
Batman.
Yes. Now we see a silhouette. And the internet has been speculating very, very highly about what does this mean. So, Pat, let me ask you, what do you think this means?
I think it means Batman is already a thing.
Yep.
I know it's been speculated heavily that, we know there's a Batman movie coming and I'm not talking about Matt Reeves' film. I'm talking about one set in the actual DC universe we're establishing here.
Brave and the Bold.
Brave and the Bold. We are kind of curious all right, what are we going to do? Are we going to see Martha and Bruce and Mr. Wayne? I'm blanking on the name for some reason. Thank you. Thomas Wayne murdered for the umpteenth time. What does it mean? This clearly establishes, hey, Batman's already a thing. He's already established. What point he is in his career, we don't really know. But hey, we're not going to see, the origin again. We're not going to see the walk down crime alley for the umpteenth time. He's already a thing. Is this one of the folks that's been speculated? I know Alan Richardson, most known for Reacher these days on Prime Video, among other things, is one of the popular fan speculations. I don't think it's any one specific actor. I'm kind of taking James Gunn at his word that it's deliberately vague because they're not ready to commit. He did say in an interview with Rotten Tomatoes, quote, "When they first gave it to me, we saw a lot more Batman. And I was saying, I am not ready to commit to that. I'm not ready to commit to that. I'm not ready to commit to that." So I was just like, more silhouette, more silhouette, more silhouette. So I don't think this is any one specific person in terms of an actor. I think this is just deliberately vague of like, hey, he's a thing. He's around. Who it is, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't need to know.
And I'm not talking about we know Batman's Bruce Wayne, but in terms of like, oh, it's this actor or that actor. No, we don't know. Well, it's just a person.
Here's the thing. If you take a look at the silhouette again, we don't see the emblem. We don't see anything involving the costume.
You know what it almost...
Except the cape and the cowl.
You know what it almost reminds me of? And I'm not saying it's this version of Batman, but it's just what it reminds me of Frank Miller's Batman.
Yeah, I mean...
a little bit.
They're borrowing a lot from that. I mean, I've heard Absolute Batman, which, I mean, I don't think is going to be the case. Even though I would go completely crazy if it did. I'd be losing my mind. No, but I think in the situation, it's just how the animation came out with it. They did the silhouette. We know it's Batman.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we need to know right now. So we don't need to say it's Alan Richardson.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know Jensen Ackles' name has been thrown around it numerous times. We do know that there's some movement of some sort about trying to have Robert Pattinson come over and be the Batman.
There's been some discussion.
I mean, the thing right now is it's just cool to see that this show is now very tied to the DCU.
Yeah.
And that's where they went with this, because if you're going to have a villain that was in Gotham, you're going to have an interaction with Batman in some way, shape, or form.
And it's a more sensible and tangible introduction than, say, Batman v Superman, where everybody shows up at the same fucking party.
Yeah. Like I say, it makes a lot more sense of how they did this. I loved how they did this.
Yeah.
And you can speculate all you want, but at the end of the day, I mean, here we go. You have Batman in the DCU.
Right, and it's not that complicated an intro. It's not one that you need to watch to understand whatever they end up doing in the Batman movie that they're going to do for this universe. It's one that if your friends go to see this movie, well, wait, he's already a thing. Where did we first see him? Like if they start asking, you can just say, hey, he showed up in an episode of this show. That's all it was.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
So they do get away from the flashbacks enough now at this stage. We go to the present. Rick Flag Jr. has been taken out, or Senior, I should say, has been taken out by Clayface.
Yep.
Left for nearly dead. Eric Frankenstein is now has taken control of a plane and is on his way to Pakistan to convince the bride that he's a good guy and also stop the mission was going on because...
Sounds like an episode of Jerry Springer.
A little bit. I mean, it's a little convoluted, I guess you could say, but... It is what it is. So there's a lot of moving parts happening here because the information that Amanda Waller and company are going off of is that the princess is bad. She's going to cause the end of the world.
The world's going to end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Flag Sr. is in the hospital, and he is not getting any better right now that we don't see him making the dramatic save.
Yep.
Albeit, though, now that they said they're going to do season 2, of course he's going to make it out.
Of course he is.
He is. So now you see Frankenstein is on his way over there, and at the same time, you're seeing Dr. Phosphorus is hiding through the town of the community of Pokistan.
Yep.
Runs into a child who reminds him of his own that he lost.
Yep.
Has a bonding moment, which I thought was very nice for what it was.
It was a nice little tension break.
Yeah. And then obviously the parents interrupt and are like, "Why are you throwing my child in the air?"
Yeah.
And
and plus, what the fuck is holding my kid?
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, that'd be my first thought.
Yeah. So they wind up, he's like, "Well, which way do I go to the castle?" And they point to the right. He says, "Thank you very much," and leaves.
Yep.
So it really kind of ties up his story for the most part. Nina and the bride have their own one going on because as they're running from the Knights of Pokistan.
I forgot this was a thing until you mentioned it.
Yep.
Yo.
They duck into a brothel.
Uh-huh.
An establishment of the night.
Yeah.
And they are trying to blend in, and when some unruly customers come in and wind up abusing one of the establishment's employees.
Which is against the establishment's rules.
Yep, and they try going against the head person in charge.
Yep.
Well, the bride does not exactly get down with this, neither does Nina.
Well, and they try to, play bouncer, I guess you could say, and escort the gentleman from the building. Come to find out, they're metahumans.
Yeah.
And they're abusing their powers, which is, again against the rules. No powers in the building.
Mm-hmm. So they wind up killing both of them.
Yep.
And now have to run because, well, now they're getting hunted for murder.
Yep.
So their story is now set in place. And then the last, but certainly not least, and after the events of his own origin story of chasing squirrels, Weasel runs into a wolf pack.
Because of course he does.
Yes. And he can't be happy. He winds up having to leave them to go, back on the mission at hand.
Yep.
And, I mean, how funny is that? That just cracks me up. It's like the guy just can't get a break. Because we saw his, tragic origin story play out.
Yeah.
And then we get this.
Yep.
So it ultimately sets the stage for the remaining members of Task Force M to come together on their way to the castle.
Yep.
And will Frankenstein make it in time?
Probably.
Will Rick Flag wind up saving the day in some aspect?
Probably.
What will Amanda Waller do? Like I say, it's now left for a very unique ending time that they can do. And the only thing that we know about the finale is it's titled A Very Funny Monster. So, any speculation about how we're going to wrap this season up, Pat?
I don't know, because we know, like you said, we're getting a season 2, so I feel like there's going to be that moment of like that story gets wrapped up, but there's going to be like by the way, like she's got a sister or something akin to that like is going to extend this into season 2.
Yeah, the only thing with this, I would say, if they wanted to do, because we haven't seen it yet, is the finale will center around Nina. Because we haven't got a backstory yet for her. That's the only character we have not yet.
Yeah.
So I could see them doing it. However, though, I think that would be a letdown for a finale. I really do.
Yeah, it could be.
And it's nothing against her, mind you. But I think if you're going to try doing an origin story, you should have done it earlier instead of finale.
Right.
So depending, unless she is the one that is going to wind up saving the day and then you establish her as a major player, then that makes a little more sense. But in the meantime, though, I think overall they've created enough buzz behind the show to warrant a season 2. Fans are now getting on board with it. All bets are off again going into this finale because you have new properties, and a closer tie to the DCU is only going to help matters.
Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, though, some characters are not making it out of this season alive because if you're going to do a Suicide Squad-esque book, some people are not going to make it.
Yeah.
But either way, we'll be entertained, and we will definitely be recapping it on next week's episode. So that being said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about episode 6 entitled Creature Commandos from DC Studios' Creature Commandos? Let's talk about it, shall we? But we're going to get one last break in. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, Pad. What you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which, I don't know how I feel about this. It was announced yesterday that Disney Plus is going to be doing a remake of the movie from 2003, Holes, based on the 1998 novel of the same name, which is the television show is going to be written by Alina Menken with Liz Fang as a showrunner. And it says, quote, Holes, the series centers on a teenage girl who is sent to a detention camp where the ruthless warden forces the campers to dig holes for a mysterious purpose. Fang and Menken executive produced with Drew Goddard and Sarah Esberg of Goddard Textiles. The movie's producer, Mike Medavoy, Walden Media, which was behind the 2003 feature, as well as rights holder Shamrock 20th Television, where Goddard is under a first look deal, is the studio. Says directed by Andrew Davis from a script by Cher. The film starred Shia LaBeouf as Stanley, who gets sentenced to 18 months of hard labor at Camp Green Lake, a juvenile detention camp. Sigourney Weaver, John Voight, Patricia Arquette, Tim Blake Nelson, and Eartha Kitt also starred. The pilot order was first reported by Variety. So this is a book that I remember when this came out back in 1998, that I remember reading this back in elementary school and middle school, that I first heard about it from actually reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow was the one that talked about this, because this book, I'm showing Ken the list of awards this book this book has won a ton of awards. It's won like north of 20 awards from the course of its release in 1998 through 2003, and it's even won the John Newbery Medal Award. So it's a fantastic book if you've never read it. It's a young adult novel, a fantastic book. And the movie is goddamn perfect in terms of adaptation. It's hour and 57 minutes. If you haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus. It's a fantastic. I watched it probably not last year. I think 2 years ago now. For its time, it was fantastic, and it still holds up to this day. So I'm not sure how I feel about them doing a remake. I'll wait and see for the trailer before I reserve judgment on it. But it's just one of those that I don't feel it necessarily needed a remake. But that's the MO Disney's doing these days.
A Holes movie.
Yes.
Well, I guess there's a market for it per se, but it's not really screaming they needed to redo it.
Sure. Like I said, if you have not seen the movie from 2003, go watch it on Disney Plus. It's a great movie, and especially if you got a couple of hours to kill and you want to watch something you haven't seen before. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say this will be one that's drawing in a little bit of attention.
Sure.
I don't know. Personally, I'm not sold on it, but that's just me in my opinion.
Speaking of movies and being skeptical, calling me skeptical on this one, because it was announced at Sony's CES 2025 press conference that they're partnering with Columbia Pictures, who did produce the 2022 Uncharted movie starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg as Nathan Drake and Victor Sullivan, respectively. They're going to be doing a Horizon Zero Dawn movie, which, again, skeptical of this because let's not forget, Netflix was supposed to do a series based on this, and the series was canceled. So, not sure how I feel about this because I played the games. The games are fantastic. The first one is one of the best games I've ever played. Second one is just as good. It's a post-apocalyptic adventure where you play Aloy, where basically I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but it's post-apocalyptic. They're robots. It's a fantastic story. If you haven't played it on PlayStation, you absolutely should. Pretty sure the second one's on PC now even.
Okay.
But yeah, they did say that, quote, Columbia Pictures and PlayStation Productions are at the early stages of developing a film adaptation of the award-winning Horizon Zero Dawn. Just imagine Aloy's beloved origin story set in a vibrant, far future world filled with the giant machines brought to you for the first time on the big screen, close quote. So it sounds like that they're just trying to recoup whatever losses they might have incurred from the television show getting canceled. And that I'm guessing some of those portions might get fleshed into this movie, which a movie budget would probably work better for this than a television show budget, just because if you're not familiar with the game, go watch some gameplay. This is a production that absolutely needs a movie style budget.
Yeah.
We'll see. They also did announce they're working on a film adaptation of Helldivers 2. Because, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Very skeptical of this.
Something I'm not skeptical of that they did announce. They did announce that there is a Ghost of Tsushima anime series coming.
Ooh, okay.
So this titled Ghost of Tsushima Legends is going to premiere in 2027, and Crunchyroll, Aniplex, Sony Music, and PlayStation Productions are collaborating on the series.
Nice.
Reading on Crunchyroll's website, it does say, quote, Crunchyroll announced during Sony Group Corporation's CES 2025 press conference today that an anime series based on Sucker Punch Productions' Ghost of Tsushima video game and its Ghost of Tsushima Legends multiplayer experience is officially in production. The anime will exclusively premiere on Crunchyroll in 2027. Takanobu Mizuno, Star Wars Vision's The Duel, will direct the series at Kamikaze Duga, with Jen Urobuchi writing the story composition. The anime will be produced in collaboration with Aniplex, with Sony Music serving as music and soundtrack partner. Additional staff and cast were not announced at the time of this panel. The Ghost of Tsushima game debuted on the PlayStation 4 in July 2020, with the PlayStation 5 released in 2021 and Windows in 2024. Ghost of Tsushima Legends debuted in October 2020. A sequel titled Ghost of Yote was announced in September 2024, with a scheduled release of 2025. Sucker Punch describes the original game as such, quote, the year is 1274. Samurai warriors are the legendary defenders of Japan until the fearsome Mongol Empire invades the island of Tsushima, wreaking havoc and conquering the local population. As one of the last surviving samurai, you rise from the ashes to fight back. But honorable tactics won't lead you to victory. You must move beyond your samurai traditions to forge a new way of fighting, the way of the ghost, as you wage an unconventional war for the freedom of Japan, close quote. Game is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
If you have not played it, seriously, play it. But the fact they're doing an anime, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, definitely excited about this one.
Yeah. And then we also got a trailer for The Last of Us Season 2, releasing in April of this year. Holy hell, I did not know it was coming. I am super excited for this. If you're not familiar with the story for Season 2, oh boy.
Yeah, I don't think pop culture is ready for this one.
No.
I mean, listen, we do know what's going to happen, and I'm not going to say it's Glenn Negan Part 2, but
it's Glenn Negan Part 2.
It's like you're going to see the one if they stay true to form.
Yep.
You will see a Glenn Negan Part 2.
Yep.
Moment.
And then we got an update on the James Mangold Star Wars movie that is coming soon. And we did find out a little bit of when it's going to be set in the Star Wars timeline. So according to an article on Variety.com, did say, it says, quote, James Mangold, who just picked up a Directors Guild of America nomination for A Complete Unknown, recently told MovieWeb that his upcoming Star Wars movie is deliberately set thousands of years before any other movie in the long-running franchise so that he doesn't have to deal with the canon and can thus avoid angering fans. Mangold's Star Wars movie was officially announced in April 2023. Quote, the Star Wars movie would be taking place 25,000 years before any known Star Wars movies take place, the director told MovieWeb. It's an area and a playground that I've always wanted to explore and that I was inspired by as a teenager. I'm not that interested in being handcuffed by so much lore at this point that it's almost immovable and you can't please anybody, close quote. Mangold told IO9 last year, shortly after his involvement in a Star Wars movie was revealed, that his project would center on the origins of the Force and how it was understood, wielded, and harnessed, with a vibe similar to biblical epics such as the Ten Commandments. He said then that he was not interested in holding so much lore in the air that you can hardly tell a story, close quote. So, makes sense. And I think it's a good move for the film because, let's face it, there's a lot of Star Wars these days.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lore you got to keep track of. And having something that, like, you got to know absolutely nothing other than, hey, it's Star Wars. Nice change.
That's a catch-22, but I do agree with you. I think this is a smart move to do something different.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a tough sell for the pop culture audience, though.
Sure.
That's the only thing.
Sure.
Star Wars fans are going to be excited about it. Pop culture. We'll have to wait and see, but I think if it's projected right, I think it'll be okay.
Yep. Lastly, certainly not least, we got some video game news, and we got a trailer a little bit ago, last week, a couple days ago, actually.
Yeah.
And this is for the Season 1 Eternal Night Falls for Marvel Rivals, and a certain family is coming to Marvel Rivals. They're a little...
The Torettos?
No, we'd only be so lucky. But no, the Fantastic Four are joining Marvel Rivals Season 1, which begins January 10th, 2025, 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The description on the YouTube video says, quote, "Darkness engulfs New York as the time stream entanglement leaves Doctor Strange trapped in the entangled astral plane, scattering the Darkhold pages. Dracula and Doctor Doom disrupt the moon's orbit, plunging the city into eternal night and unleashing an army of vampiric creatures. With the world on the brink, the Fantastic Four joins forces with iconic Marvel heroes, standing together in the epic battle to break the mystical darkness with science. Ignite the battle against Dracula with the Fantastic Four and Marvel rivals." And I gotta say, excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, this one definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, the movie coming out in July.
Yep.
You want to get a lot of eyes on the product.
Yep.
Fantastic Four is due for a big push in the comics
Oh yeah.
with the One Nation Under Doom. And this is a perfect way to do it. I will say, though, let me ask you before we get out of this segment.
Okay.
Do you think this is the costumes they're going to wear for the movie?
I don't think so.
I don't think so
No,
either.
just because it feels like the costumes in this game are kind of its own thing. There's certain, like, yes, there are costumes that like are inspired by the movies in this game, but that seems like it comes after they're introduced.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think I saw some places online were saying, "Oh, this is the first look." It's like, no. I think that's wishful thinking.
I think after the movie comes out, they will put the costumes in the game.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they're deep diving on the skins already for the characters.
Right.
I mean, the fact they did Sue Storm Malice.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Reed Richards' Maker.
Yeah.
That's not so far of a stretch.
Yeah.
But I think that they really want to get a lot of momentum going for this movie, and that's smart on their end. I'm applauding it. I'm excited. I might have to take the dive and play. I just don't know, because I hear you get sucked into that world and you don't get out.
That's what I've heard from a couple of people. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it. I mean, we have too many reviews to write.
Yeah, this is true.
Speaking of which, it's New Comic Book Day.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
So the 3 issues I think you should pick up at the comic shop this week are the 3 I reviewed for Nerd Initiative, because they are incredible books. First of which, from Dark Horse Comics and George Mann, you have Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures, Echoes of Fear, issue number 4. This one reads, quote, "Jedi Knight Reith Silas and Jedi Padawan Amadeo Azazo embark on a desperate mission to recover the Rod of Ages, the last known fragment of an Echo Stone, in time to help contain the greatest threat that has ever faced the Jedi Order, the deadly Force Eaters known as the Nameless." So, of course, the Nameless, the thing that have been plaguing the Jedi, plaguing, the heroes, the High Republic for the entirety of the High Republic era. Don't really know what the heck to do about them. They have killed a few, but still, it's one that not going away anytime soon. So if they're able to figure out what happens, we'll see. But it's a good issue. Also from the folks over at Marvel, Star Wars: The Battle of Jakku, Last Stand, issue number 2. This is number 10 overall of 12 from Alex Segura. And this one reads, quote, "A brazen assassination attempt leaves the heroes reeling as a darker truth is uncovered. Luke, Leia, and Han are reunited, but under dire circumstances. What's left of the Empire must react to a new threat. On the eve of the Battle of Jakku, a traitor revealed. The heroes are faced with an ominous new threat careening toward them, with Jakku as the target." There's a lot going on with this issue. The stakes are getting ever higher. We know what the end game is. They're going to go to Jakku, and well, spoiler alert if you've seen the movie.
Yeah.
The Empire loses. There's a lot of moving pieces in here, though, that we don't know what's going to happen to them, including Moff Adelhard.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We don't know what the hell's going to happen with this guy, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, they're definitely setting this up very nicely. I know Alex Segura is really setting a big stage happening.
Oh, yeah. Lastly, certainly not least, the best issue I read this week from the folks over at Marvel. You got Amazing Spider-Man issue number 65 from Joe Kelly. This one reads, "The 8 deaths of Spider-Man continue. Spider-Man has faced 4 scions and is running out of extra lives. This issue's scion, Sierra, represents the very power of death itself and makes Spider-Man watch everything he loves die. Can Spider-Man possibly withstand this punishment?" Folks, that is not an exaggeration. If he has an emotional connection to them, he watches them die. Mary Jane? You betcha. Aunt May? Yep. Felicia Hardy? Absolutely. Miles Morales? Spider-Gwen? Yep. J. Jonah Jameson? You betcha.
Spider-Ham?
No, Spider-Man. No Spider-Ham.
Oh.
It's a gut punch of an issue just because it's one that he feels he can do fine with, and he's like, "Oh, you don't know how much loss I've had. I can handle this." I'll say this: the end of the issue is me very intrigued to see where they go with this. It's a great series thus far, and if you haven't read it, start reading it.
Let me ask you this, Pat, before I get to my picks. Knowing Joe Kelly is the architect behind this, and now he's going to be writing the new regular series, how excited are you?
Very excited. The last run, a lot to be desired, to say the least. This is a very fresh, welcome change. Everything about this has been great. It's been fantastically paced. The stakes are high. I haven't read a single issue of this run that I went, well, that was time wasted.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah, Joe Kelly's amazing. So,
He
like I
is.
say, he's
Big fan.
He's perfect for Spider-Man. Speaking of perfect for characters, so my picks this week leads off with one. I will admit, when I heard about this book, I was like, okay, how is this going to go? And then I heard who was writing and drawing it.
All right.
And I went, I'm in. I'm all in. We have a new Aquaman series.
Really?
Yep. By Jeremy Adams, who
Oh.
you've heard me talk about on here with Green Lantern,
I have.
and John Timms. This book is incredible.
Oh, wow.
This book, like, for anybody that is skeptical about reading Aquaman because y'all think he's just talks to fish or whatever, they do an amazing job about making this new reader friendly. They give him a big intro.
Sure.
I'm trying to think how to say this without spoiling.
Sure.
And the ending, I have not read any solicitations for issue number 2 or 3 or whatever coming up next. I will say this though, that ending, I went, oh wow, okay, we just went somewhere.
Right.
Big time. So I highly recommend this issue. I think if you are skeptical because it's Aquaman, throw it out the window. Jeremy Adams is doing some of the best work in comics right now. So give it a chance, read it, and definitely I want to talk to a lot of fans about this next week or in between now when they go pick up the issues.
Right.
Obviously, if we're talking DC, the biggest book at DC Comics right now is Absolute Batman. I don't think there's any question about that.
Literally.
Yep. And this one, Scott Snyder is writing, but we have a step in for the art.
Okay.
And it's Gabriel Hernandez Walta, who I know from Phantom Road from
Right.
Image Comics.
Right.
And this is a year one-esque story.
All right.
It deals with a lot of the absolute version of what happened with Thomas Wayne, flashbacks. Like I say, it's a great balance of drama, and there's some very cool action that happens here, but it's very early of this Bruce Wayne.
Sure.
And the ending, I am very curious about where we go from here because I could see Scott writing this one in two ways. Either he's going to continue this or he's going to leave people hanging and come back to this in a bit. And either way, when you get to that final panel, you're like, oh, shit. Oh, okay, we just went here. Fantastic issue. I mean, this is getting all the praise it deserves in the world, so I'm super excited about this. Also, coming back to Image Comics is a very famous creative team.
Okay.
8 Billion Genies grab you?
I've heard the name.
Charles Soule, Ryan Brown.
Okay. You've sold me.
Lucky Devils #1. The Lucky Devils #1. So this is their new project they're working on, and like we say, with 8 Billion Genies, if you haven't read that yet, I don't know what you're doing. This series definitely is worth checking out. Very interesting concept involving two devils on some two innocent souls' shoulders, and what happens after that. It's a very cool book set up thus far. We're very excited to see where we go from here, and I think this is going to be one the fans are going to be talking about. And what a way to start off the new year with that. Over at Distillery, The Blood Brothers Mother #3. Brian Azzarello, Eduardo Risso, you know them from 100 Bullets. They've reconnected, obviously, with this story. This is spaghetti western. This is Old West. Like I say, if you love those old-style Clint Eastwood movies, this is right up that alley. This is a very cool story, very amazing artwork, too. The direction it goes in, I mean, it's not one if you are, faint of heart and one that can't handle emotional gut punches. Very, very good book. Very good series. Like I said, go check it out if you haven't. Distillery's got a lot of big books coming out in the next couple weeks, too. So get ready for them to make a big push in the early 2025. Also, going back to DC Comics, now this is one I know Pat will not read because it's a horror book.
Nope.
Batman Dark Patterns. which I shouldn't say horror, but it is a very unique story. But I'm going to show Pat the cover.
Oh.
And this
Interesting.
this is a very cool concept they've been doing. This is like a year one 12-issue series.
Right.
And they're focusing 4 issues on one certain case of that time period.
Oh.
So this one is involving a serial killer known as the Wound Man.
Okay.
And goes in a lot of crazy directions. Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman is the creative team behind it. And like I say, it's a very cool read if you like that early Batman detective stories. So I've been digging it thus far. I think it's got a lot of very cool twists they do with this as well. And last but certainly not least, Uncanny X-Men number 8, Gail Simone. Javier Garrón is stepping in for art on this. And this is the end of the Raid on Grey Malkin storyline that they've been doing, the big crossover between both the Louisiana X-Men, as Rogue's team is known as, and Cyclops' I call them a hit squad. It doesn't feel like a team book with how Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman are doing that book.
Right.
It feels like they're more old school X-Force than they are actually X-Men.
Oh.
So this has been a interesting crossover. I know a lot of fans have mixed feelings because, the X-Men line just came back. Why are we doing a crossover? It makes a lot of sense. And I'm actually doing a lot of pauses, which I don't usually do because I'm trying to really articulate my words for this.
Okay.
I thought this established one thing that if you've been reading both books, one point has jumped out and you can't be denied. Rogue is the definitive leader of the X-Men. And the X-Men team, if you like that heroic vibe, Gail Simone's writing is bringing it out in Rogue. And you can't help but just rally behind her team. Cyclops is very Magneto-esque in this. And especially what this involves because of Grey Malkin at this time, which we know is the former home of the X-Men, is now a mutant prison. And we do see some familiar inmates here, and especially one Charles Xavier.
Uh-oh.
And knowing what has happened from the fall of Krakoa, you know there's a lot of high tension, mixed emotions involving that character.
Uh-oh.
So the ending is very unique to that, but as I put in my review for Nerd Initiative, I thought they telegraphed it a little bit because as much as I was saying about Creature Commandos, when you announce that you're doing something after and you haven't wrapped up one thing yet,
right?
I think that hurts. We do know X-Manhunt is happening in March across all the X-Men books. I think they telegraphed something here. But I still think, though, as a big fan of what Gail and David Marquez have built with this book, I like how this ended because I think the Rogue team has been nothing short of fantastic to read. So hit me up on those hashtags. Let me know what you think about this. But a lot of solid books out of the shops this weekend. If you're looking for more reviews, nerdinitiative.com has got your hookup. 30 reviews on site currently right now. Oof. And nobody is doing New Comic Book Day like the team over at nerdinitiative.com. That being said, that's it for us this week, talking some entertainment. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.